I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rekah Kudash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth, and Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Okay, and this is Shabai from the GMS Denver, and today I'm gonna go in on 2 Corinthians, the 4th chapter, and just do a lesson on that through the Spirit. I started reading it, and so here we are. Without further ado, it starts at verse 1. It says, "Therefore, seeing we have this ministry, as we have received mercy, we faint not." Yes, for us to be in this ministry, it's because it's mercy from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, okay? Because you got to understand, not everybody's in this ministry, not everybody's in this truth. You got men who are calling themselves Israelites, who are, giving false breakdowns, teaching lies, teaching deception, doing all kinds of wicked shit. But, the true men of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai are going to be on point with this doctrine, because this is mercy on us, and we can't taint the doctrine, man. You can't alter the doctrine. You can't sugarcoat the doctrine. None of that, you see. This is, "But have renounced the hidden things of dishonesty, not walking in craftiness, nor handling the word of the Most High deceitfully, but by manifestation of the truth, commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of the Most High." Right, so you can't sit there and like I said, you can't teach this thing deceitfully. You become a false prophet the second that you start teaching deceitfully. When this is a extremely, extremely severely important thing, and literally, we're not at liberty to teach, to go off. You can't cause the Israelite, you can't cause the flock to err. That's a huge violation in the eyes of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Not walking in craftiness like Esau. And when you're crafty, that means you're subtle, you're sneaky, You're doing shit behind closed doors. You're not being honest, upfront, transparent. But when you teach this knowledge, hey, we're the most transparent people out there, because we don't care if we offend you, If you get offended by this knowledge, you get offended by this truth, then it's easy for us to discern that you're not of the elect. All right, let me grab that word renounce real quick. So it basically means to reject, or to refuse to abide by, to refuse to recognize. All right. Yeah. So we're not going to be dishonest. We're going to be totally 100% honest when it comes to the doctrine, and we don't care who it offends. Our job is simple. It's just to teach it, to learn it, to teach it soundly. And there's no need to alter. You can't add or take away, because then you're in violation. Verse 3, "But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost." All right. So if you can't see it, and we're out there in the on the tree or the housetops, We're out there, doing our thing on the street corners, breaking down the parables, breaking down the dark sayings, breaking down the breaking down the scriptures, and you're still lost. Well, guess what? That's Yahweh's. He hasn't chosen to open your eyes, because the elect are not going to be lost. The elect are going to get it right away. They're going to be quickened in the spirit. All right, let's grab that real quick. Let's grab a precept on being quickened in the spirit. I just typed the letter Q and my computer pulled it up right away. All I had to put was Q. All right, let's see here. We'll go to 1 Peter 3:18. It says, "For Mashiach also hath once suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to the Most High, being put to death in the flesh, but quickened by the Spirit." And what's the Spirit? The Spirit is the truth. The Spirit is the scriptures, And this is what quickens us. Let me see if I can get another one. John. Let's go to John. John 6:63. It says, "It is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life." All right, so it's all about the spirit, man. Your spirit is what quickens us. Like yesterday at camp, we were saying, we mess up, we fuck up, we sin, and it's because our flesh isn't perfect, but we're perfect in the spirit, perfect in the doctrine. All right, let's get to 2 Corinthians. Go back 4:4. It reads, "In whom the Most High of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Hamashiach, who is the image of the Most High, should shine unto them." Right. And who's the God of this world? The God of this world is Esau Edom. That's who everybody's following, right? The majority of these people are following the white man, aka Cracker Jesus, right? When they depict pictures of the Father and the Son, they always look like white men, so-called white men, Edomites. And he's the one who's blinded you. That's why you can't see the truth. That's why you're offended. If you're not of the elect, you're going to be offended. But the elect, even though they've been exposed to those lies, the elect is still going to believe, and they're going to come out of that darkness, because that's you're in darkness if you believe the Most High it looks like a so-called white man, and if you believe Hamashiach is a Cracker Jesus, you're in darkness. All right, like it tells you in, I'll grab it, we get it a lot. 2 Thessalonians 2, and let's get 9. Let's start at 9. So we'll start at 10. 2 Thessalonians 2:10, "And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved." Right? You don't receive the love of the truth. Instead, you're stuck in the darkness. You're stuck in the dark, And you could be saved if you're an Israelite, if you actually, weren't offended by the truth. If you actually were able to receive Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, you could be saved. You could receive salvation. But because you're blinded by the God of this world, you're going to perish. And it says in verse 11, here's your punishment. "And for this cause the Most High Yahweh shall send them strong delusion that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. You see? So you have pleasure in Cracker Jesus. You have pleasure in the white God. You know, they put in the paintings and shit, and in the watchtowers, and you know, Jehovah's Witness, they got a brochure they call the Watchtower, and I forgot the other one. They got another one. What's the other one called? Let me think. Shit, I forgot what they. Let me look up real quick. Just not that it's important, but when you open up their Watchtower brochure, you're gonna find white Cracker Jesus, and you're gonna find the Cracker depiction of God, which that's a lie, you know, and that's what we're reading about. You believe a lie, and that's strong delusion. Because why? Because you believe the God of this world, which let's go to, and you know, I'll prove to you that the Edomites are the God of this world. Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Malachi 1:4 tells you that the Edomites are the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? All right, so those are whitewashed paintings. You know, the iconoclasm. Look that up if you don't already know what it is. But that's going to show you that the wicked has basically put his image up to be the image of God. You know? And then you got all our people who grow up learning that since they were knee high to a grasshopper, right? And then they fucking, that's what they believe. So then when the true prophets come on the scene, the ones who have been quickened in the spirit, the ones who have been, you know, brought into the marvelous light, you don't believe us because you've been learning and taught, and the other, by the way, the other brochure that the Jehovah's Wickedness uses, they use the Watchtower and the Awake. They call it an awake, which that's a hypocrisy, because you're not awake when you're believing a white Jesus, a Cracker Jesus, and a Cracker God, you know, whose true name is Yahweh. But anyway, you get the point. You're in darkness, and your spirit's not quickened if you stay in those lies, and if you're stubborn. The scripture speaks about our people being stubborn and hard-headed, though. So it doesn't surprise the true prophets, because we know what the scriptures say, right? Let's get that real quick in Exodus 32:9. It says, "And Yahweh said unto Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people." Right? If you're stiff-necked, it means you're stubborn. 2 Corinthians 4 and 5. It says, "For we preach not ourselves, but Yahushua HaMashiach, the Lord, and ourselves your servants for Yahushua's sake. For the Most High, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, hath shined in our hearts," which is our mind, "to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of the Most High in the face of Yahushua Mashiach." Right. And the light shines through his men, through his prophets. First through Yahushua, and then through the men that Yahushua was given from, you know, Yahweh gave Yahushua his men. Talks about that in John 17. You know, you can read about Yahushua's thanking Yahweh for the men that he had given him, that are in the truth, that were able to receive the truth. All right. Let's get Matthew 5:14, because we just read about the light, right, that shines in us. The light is representation of understanding and knowledge. So we go to Matthew 5 and 14, and it says, "Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house." Right, so we're at the forefront, right? We're in the chief place of concourse in this dark ass world. But you got a representation of light, which are the men who are teaching the truth according to knowledge and sound doctrine. You see? And so we don't teach, right now I'm doing a lesson in the comfort of my room, in the comfort of my home, but we're not limited to that. That's why we got to go out into the chief place of concourse, because we got to let our light shine before men, like it tells you in verse 16. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. See? So this is how we let our light shine before men. Yes, men come across our videos on YouTube, but the chief place of concourse, being out there in the elements, being out there as a living sacrifice in the streets, this is where this is where where we do the work, and this is where our light shines before men. So we'll go to Proverbs 1 and 20. It says, "Wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the streets." And the wisdom is the knowledge and the scriptures and the spirit that the men are teaching, that we have on us. We're in the streets, right? It says, "She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she uttereth her words, saying, How long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and the fools hate knowledge," right? And a fool is a non-believer. So we're giving you the true knowledge, and if you don't believe it, well, guess what? We can discern you as a fool, because you don't believe the truth. You don't believe the true knowledge. You see? So when you don't believe the true knowledge, you're a fool. You want to stay in the cracker Jesus. You want to stay in the white depictions and paintings and pictures of they represent, what was the example I gave you, the Watchtower and the Awake brochures. They got the white God and the cracker Jesus up in there. You hate knowledge, because we're telling you we can easily debunk that lie through the scripture, through the spirit. And if you're still hanging on to it after you get taught, guess what? You're just marked as a fool. You're marked for destruction. It's an easy thing. This thing of ours that we're a part of it's not like they say, it's not rocket science. It can be very simple. You just teach the scriptures. Like I say, learn the scripture, teach the scripture. And the elect are going to hearken. The elect are going to believe the report. The elect are going to, they're going to repent. But it's the fools and the 2/3 and the non-believers, all of the above. They're all one and the same. They're the ones who can't receive this truth. They can't be a part of the elect. All right, let's go back to 2 Corinthians 4:7. It says, "But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of the Most High and not of us." Right? In the earthen vessels, we are those earthen vessels that has the treasure. What's the treasure? The treasure is the knowledge, the truth. "We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair." All right? Yes, we already know that there's going to be chastisement. There's going to be persecution. There's going to be suffering. There's going to be trials and tribulations the elect has to go through. And we're perplexed, but we're not in despair. You know? So, yeah, we're going to go through all that. Let's see. You know, so perplexed, you know, there's a lot of similar words that can be associated with that word perplexed. And some of them are strange, inexplicable, confusing, bamboozled, baffled, puzzled, mystify. You know, you get the point. So we're all of the above. You know, it becomes like that with this life. But, you know, the truth, this is why we need the truth, because of you know, you become when you're perplexed, you know, the truth is what's going to keep you grounded. And we're not in despair. I mean, we're not desperate. We're not without hope, you know. Persecuted but not forsaken, cast down but not destroyed. You see that? Yeah, we're going to get persecuted, but we're not going to be forsaken. Yahweh B'Shem Yahshua is going to allow us to be persecuted, some of us, for his name's sake, for their name's sake. But guess what? We're not going to be forgotten. We're not going to be cast down. We're not going to be destroyed. Matter of fact, when you do get persecuted, you're the opposite of being cast down. You're actually exalted. When you go through the sufferings and persecution for Yahweh B'Shem Yahshua's namesake, well, guess what? You're getting exalted in the spirit, and you're not going to be destroyed. You know, and the ones who are of the elect are going to fit all those categories. You know, you won't be cast down. You won't be forsaken. You will be persecuted. You have to be persecuted. The elect is going to be persecuted. Yahweh Shai was persecuted. So, you know, we know we're not greater than the master. So we know we're going to also go through, you know, we're going to catch hell. Verse 10, we're going to catch hell for our testimony, right? Verse 10, always bearing about in the body the dying of the Lord Yahweh Shai, that life also of Yahweh Shai might be made manifest in our body, right? We're gonna, you know, because you died in this world, right? You basically you become dead to this world as you get more experience in this truth. You start to you start to basically how should I put it? You start to wean yourself away from this world, you know, through the experience, through the time put in this ministry. You start to realize that, you know, the most important thing, and really the only thing that matters, is this knowledge and this truth, and everything else is basically vanity. You know. You know, it doesn't mean you know, we balance. You know, right now, while we can, yeah, we still do things that sometimes, you know, we might get a little pleasure in the life, but for the most part, we become stoic men. You know, when you're stoic, you know, you're never too high or too low. You're just right there, level-headed. You know, that, like Yahushua, he went through all what he did, but he wasn't, like, you know, he wasn't sitting there looking for pleasure and glory. No, he was looking to fulfill the will of Yahweh. And he did that walk in perfection. And he's the greatest example of what we model ourselves as, you see. Verse 11, for we which live are always delivered unto the death for Yahweh's sake, that the life also of Yahweh might be made manifest in our mortal flesh. Right. So because we are going to be delivered, the elect, right, for what Yahweh did. But we also want to, you know, be shown to be Yahweh like, you know, in our flesh, even in this, even on this side. You know, you still want to move, you know, in the like manner as Yahweh Shai. to the best of your ability, because none of us are going to be, in perfection in the flesh like Yahweh Shai was. But, we, just like with the laws, statutes, and commandments, we keep them to the best of our ability. Well, that's the same thing with, modeling ourselves after Yahweh Shai. We become like mini Yahweh Shais, if you will, and you want to strive to be as close to Yahweh Shai as you can. Verse 12, so then death worketh in us, but life in you, right? We have the same spirit of faith, according as it is written, I believed, and therefore have I spoken. We also believe, and therefore speak, right? And that's something that we share on one accord with Yahweh Shai, is that spirit of faith, And the elect are all going to have that element, which is a precious element of faith, which is required, Faith is required in this ministry. If you don't have faith, you can't. You're not in this ministry, Plain and simple. As it is written, faith without works is dead. So also not only the faith, but you also have to have your works. And your works is dealing with, your ability to teach. Your spirit to teach. Because a man who has faith is going to be willing and ready to teach at any moment. And you're not gonna take your hand off the plow, meaning you're not gonna stop doing the work. You're not going to when you go to Esau's job and sometimes you call in. Well, when part of this ministry, you can't call in. There's no days where you call in. Every day you got to be in this faith, in this truth, in the works. Remember what Yahweh Shai said. He would rather you be lukewarm than hot, or he rather you be hot or cold than lukewarm. It's lucky I said that wrong. So you got to be either on fire for this truth rather than lukewarm, or just be out of it, And if you came in and you get out, you pretty much, it's like a death wish, So that's how severe and serious this thing of ours is. All right. Verse 14, knowing that he which raised up Lord Yahweh Shai shall raise up us also by Yahweh Shai, and shall present us with you. Right. Because we have that faith to know that we're going to get the same, the same deliverance. We're going to get those new bodies, just like Yahweh Shai has. And we're going to be present with Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, you see? 15, for all things are for your sakes, that the abundant grace might through the thanksgiving of many redound to the glory of the Most High. Right. For which cause we faint not, but though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. And that's what I was talking about earlier. You kind of, the outward man perishes, meaning this the carnality of yourself, right? If I believe that's a word, the carnality of yourself kind of starts to fade away, and as your spirit is getting stronger and stronger, and you walk more in the spirit than in the carnal or in the flesh, and renewed, your spirit's renewed day by day. That's why you got to do the lessons every day, man. Just because you got to make sure. You got to make sure you're examining yourself and you're in the spirit. That's what the elect will do. The elect is going to be, tapping into that spiritual side every single day. You're not gonna say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna take a week off and, charge myself. No, this is the charge, and this is how you get charged. Like a phone needs to be charged daily. Well, the same thing with the spirit. You need to charge the spirit daily, and how do you charge the spirit is by getting in these scriptures. That's how you renew the inward man. All right. Verse 17. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. All right. So yeah, we're gonna, like I said earlier, we're gonna be persecuted. We're gonna be tried. We're gonna be, hated. We're gonna be all kind of things. You're gonna go through. You're gonna catch hell sometimes. But it's just gonna, when we get to the kingdom, you're gonna look back and you're gonna be like, man, that was not too bad. It was not as bad as I thought, or not. It was something that I could deal with. It's a light affliction compared to that eternal glory, that eternal weight of glory. When you think about the kingdom, which is going to be eternal, and all the blessings that we're coming into, this is definitely a light affliction, man. Look at what Yahushua went through on the cross. He went through, everything, his whole walk of life. He basically, he was hated by his own people, eventually killed by his own people. The pain that he went through on the cross, the physical pain, and he was, of course, he was on a whole level, but the mental, like the spiritual, all of the demons that was coming against him that he had to fight. So that was a light of, even for Yahushua, that was a light affliction compared to the eternal glory, weight of glory that we're going to step into. In other words, hey, keep your eye on the prize. This is going to be well worth it. This is going to be well worth it. You don't, no matter what the F we go through on this side, I can guarantee you it's going to be well worth it what we're going to get on the other side. Verse 18, while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Right, so our new bodies, those are going to be eternal. You can see these bodies. This is a temporal body. This is a temporal earthen vessel. This ain't even, if you're of the elect, this ain't your real body that you're in. Like me right now. This ain't my real body. This is a temporary thing. In 1 Corinthians in the 15th chapter, it talks about the new bodies that we're going to get, the celestial bodies, the kingdom. We don't see the kingdom. That's eternal. We see Esau's kingdom. Esau's kingdom is temporary. But the kingdom that we're going to have domain in, the kingdom that we're going to, or translate to, that's eternal. It's going to be well worth it. So just keep pushing, keep grinding, keep praying, fast when you need to, and, pray that, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is going to accept you in the kingdom. And then pray that you finish this race, man. Because it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. So, I'm going to go ahead and close out on that. I hope the lesson was edifying. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also, want to acknowledge Alakiam, who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom to the elect. Shalom.